Story we've been tracking since yesterday when we, found out this was all unfolding. Another community devastated by gun violence after a 28-year-old opened fire inside of a Nashville elementary school there.
And 3 children, 3 adults were killed in all of this. And now police have released body cam footage. And Bob DeCastro joins us with...
Some people are probably thinking this is the end of the world.
That's true.
Do you think it could be?
Yes.
How can you say that?
That wasn't the answer you wanted?
Couldn't you pretend to be like you used to be? Give me some comfort.
People break down into 2 groups. When they experience something lucky, group number 1 sees it as more than luck, more than coincidence. They see it as a sign, evidence that there is someone up there watching out for them. Group number 2 sees it as just pure luck, a happy turn of chance. I'm sure the people in group number 2 are looking at those 14 lights in a very suspicious way. For them, this situation is a 50-50. Could be bad. Could be good. But deep down, they feel that whatever happens, they're on their own. And that fills them with fear. Yeah, there are those people. But there's a whole lot of people in the group number 1. And they see those 14 lights. They're looking at a miracle. And deep down, they feel that whatever's going to happen, there'll be someone there to help them. And that fills them with hope. See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Or look at the question this way: is it possible that there are no coincidences?
The Hebrew language is actually the original of all languages. And there are actually books that describe how all languages evolved and originated from its original Hebrew. That's why you have Aleph, Bet, A, B, and you have the equivalent in not only in Latin languages, also in other languages, that it all originates from Hebrew. And Hebrew is considered to be the pure language, the language of metaphor, the language that the divine used to create existence. And thus the language, the letters and the words take on a whole different, dimension.
So, what do you do?
I work with computers, math.
Math? What kind of math?
Number theory, research mostly.
No way, I work with numbers myself. I mean, not traditional. I work with the Torah. Amazing! Hebrew's all math. It's all numbers. You know that? Yeah, look. The ancient Jews used Hebrew as their numerical system. Each letter's a number. Like the Hebrew A, Aleph, it's 1. B, Bet, it's 2. You understand? But look at this. The numbers are interrelated. Like, take the Hebrew word for father. Av, Aleph, Bet. 1, 2 equals 3. All right? Hebrew word for mother, Aim, Aleph, Mem. 1, 40 equals 41. Sum of 3 and 41, 44. All right? Now, Hebrew word for child. All right? Mother, father, child. Yelad. That's 10, 30, and 4. 44. Torah is just a long string of numbers. Some say that it's a code sent to us from God.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's just kid stuff. Check this out, okay? The word for the Garden of Eden, Kedem. Numerical translation, 144. Now, the value of tree of knowledge, all right, in the garden, right? Eitz HaChaim, 233. 144, 233. And you can take
are
those
Fibonacci
numbers. So
You know, like the Fibonacci sequence.
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci is an Italian mathematician in the 13th century. If you divide 144 into 233, the result approaches theta.
Theta?
Theta. The Greek symbol for golden ratio, golden spiral.
Wow. I never saw that before. That's like that series you find in nature? Like the face of a sunflower?
Wherever the spirals.
You see this math everywhere.
Gematria for beginners. The art and science behind Jewish numerology.
The Matrix? Yeah.
Do you always look at it encoded?
Well, you have to. The image translators work for the construct program.
Elementary school there.
And 3 children, 3 adults were killed in all of this, and now
See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Or look at the question this way. Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
Elementary school there.
and 3 children, 3 adults were killed in all of this, and now
Since the elementary school massacre in Uvalde, Texas, 13 days ago, there have been 33 mass shootings across America. The crisis touching nearly every corner of this country. And our Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas is in Washington with more. Good morning, Pierre.
Welcome to WitnessUp.com, and thank you for joining me today. I hope I don't have to talk too much after that introduction, although I know it's not the best introduction ever. I feel like it should already play a good game of connect the dots and get most of the job done for you. However, I know I'm still going to have to talk, right? So every time I make these videos, I know I'm making for 2 types of people, right? People of the flesh and people of the spirit. I pray that the intro was interesting enough to where people of the flesh and spirit could kind of meet on the middle ground and everybody listen up, right? So first and foremost, before I get started on this video, I just wanted to say I do not matter, right? A lot of people that are doing videos and just talking in general, they don't say that enough. I don't matter. Yah does. Right? And since the intro proves how Hebrew is important, Yah means I am in Hebrew. So I don't matter, Yah does. I literally hate anybody who talks about themselves. So when I do it, I notice how many times I say the words me or I, right? But for the sake of this video and in order to serve, share my testimony and revelations and I guess knowledge, this video has to have the words me and I in it. It has to have my story, right? So again, I want you to know that although I'm saying me or I, this isn't about me or I. This is about us, right? People who are waking up, and even people who aren't, because there's kids in their house, right? There's people out here now, women letting it be okay for their kids to put makeup on, their little boys and whatnot. And it's like everything is just in full effect, guys. So it's not about me. It's not about I. It's about us. It's about the kids. It's about the truth. It's about our Father. Okay. So I know this one's going to be hard for me because, I love communicating with my brothers and sisters online who are awake and like-minded, right? It's honestly a blessing, especially seeing followers, all across the earth in different countries. But as much as I talk with you guys, I never really talk about myself. And that's for the protection and well-being of my family, right? It's just like on a superhero movie. Like, they always wear a mask to protect the ones they love. And this is why I use the logo. And this is why I don't show my face on our videos. It's because it's about him and it's not about me. So I really hope that as a member of, the community, and as somebody that you can run into at the grocery store, as somebody who you may know just from the sound of my voice, or somebody you don't, who just, is just putting everything together, I hope and pray that you can see me as an individual, because nowadays we live in just spirit of lost, right? Everybody's so lost, but idolatry, man, is in full effect. You see these musicians and actors, and they say something and people are just puppets to it. And then you point it out and people will, somebody somebody you're related to will be like, oh, well, I like this celebrity or actor, whatever the case, and they'll attack you for pointing out the truth nowadays. They'll side with whoever they follow on social media with the blue check, way before they'll listen to their brother or sister or nephew, niece, grandson, granddaughter, whatever it is, right? So I hope again that you can just notice and, recognize that I'm a member of the community as well. I'm speaking for us, I'm speaking for the truth, and I'm speaking for him, right? So I'm going to take a huge step and say a bunch of stuff that I would never say, and things that I haven't said in past videos or even in just private conversations with my brothers and sisters that I know are on the same page as me. And I'm looking down, so sorry guys, every time I look down I'll see double digits. So it's really a blessing being able to do these videos and have the breath, time, and ability to try to stick up for what's right. Anyway, I'm going to take a big step and say more than I ever have, in hopes that, again, people just take heed to my warning, which isn't really my warning, it's his warning. Although, it could put people that I love closer to the line of fire. These videos are so important, right? Especially ones like this, because it gets the attention of both people of the flesh and people of the spirit, right? And since both are listening and looking for an answer, what better time to present the truth and give people the power of choice while they still have the luxury of time, right? I always see these videos of people in World War II, right? Before they are thrown in camps, and they'll often say things like, we heard a million warnings and we laughed at them. People were telling us to leave and they were leaving, but we stood. People were telling us this is what we needed to do to prepare, and we didn't listen, and we got thrown in camps. And that blows my mind, because that was not long ago, right? If you look at time from whenever the beginning was to now, right? Because, if you take away the factor of leap year, right, we're in a totally different year than we think. But just for conversation's sake, let's say we're in 2023. That's 2023 years, right, of creation, right? My point is, it's a long time, and, World War II was not that long ago. So the fact that people don't listen to warnings from people not that long ago just blows my mind, right? Because we find ourselves in the same position, and as the saying goes, history repeats itself. So again, I'm hoping that, people will listen and appreciate the fact that they have power of choice while they have the luxury of time, right? This video is also important, though, because obviously it has to do with safety and security of children. If you do know me personally, if you can hear my voice and you know me by my first name, maybe you are one of the random friends or family members that listen, right? The 1 in a million. Shout out to you, by the way, if you are. Then you know that I care about the safety and security of children. You know that I'll always stick up for people that are not strong enough to stick up for themselves. And you know how much I care about people around me, right? So I love children, specifically because I grew up, right? It's hard for me to live the life that I lived and not care about kids. Then look how crazy this earth is, right? It's 10 times crazier for the little eyes that are looking at all this craziness, and for the little ears that are listening to all this stuff going on, right? Now they're talking about everything they talk about in schools. It's absolutely pathetic, right? So in order for me to explain how I've got these revelations, I need to tell a little bit about myself. So first and foremost, I'm a dad. I don't like calling myself a father because the word says Only one is the Father, right? I'm also a husband and a warrior, right? I'm a warrior in the sense of doing these videos, and I'm a warrior in the sense of my job title. Technically speaking, I hunt human beings legally for a living. I also do things like PI work, EP work, and provide emergency response. I do all this legally, by the way. But for this reason, you know, I could say firsthand, you know, it's easy to see how these events are planned and how it's just another method for divide and conquer. And before you freak out, let me finish and show you, okay? Now, as a contractor, and I'll put up on the screen what I can without jeopardizing, obviously, my identity or my family, none of that stuff, right? I'll put up as much as I can to prove it to you guys. But as a contractor, long story short, I can say that for this last location, I'm not going to say which one just because I don't want to, you know, play too much connect the dots for the bad guys listening, but contracts are posted for one of these sites in advance, so like a pre-crime type deal for an active shooter situation, which I thought was absolutely disgusting. But it's been done in the past. I've actually even taken jobs for like an emergency response situation, and I'm like, wait a minute, like, okay, wait, is this like a training type deal? Like, what am I going to? And then there ends up being something that happens, right? So again, if you're not in that realm, you're not going to understand that, and I get that, so I'll put up what I can. My point is, they put out a contract to respond to some of these situations in advance. So that enough, right, for me. I mean, you know, I personally don't need any more than that on top of the other revelations I've got in the past, right? But then you look at the numerology, the gematria in it all, right? And you can see all their signs and symbols, right? Our Father reveals all that, and that's a blessing. But I've also seen postings for multiple companies, multiple contractors in a certain mile radius to make it like a bigger response, so when the news shows up, it's one of those type deals, right? And, you know, war is known. It's always been known that it's been planned, right? It's been part of man's agenda, right? They're always like, oh, you're not taking my son to fight your war, this, that, and the other. And they'll say, oh, there's all these soldiers dying for the man. And then the same government they don't think is able to plan the same thing in a government facility such as a school, right? It's just a smaller operation.
I do best. I took your little plan and I turned it on itself. Look what I did to this city with a few drums of gas and a couple of bullets. You know what I noticed? Nobody panics when things go according to plan. Even if the plan is horrifying. If tomorrow I tell the press that like a gangbanger will get shot, or a truckload of soldiers will be blowing up, nobody panics. Because it's all part of the plan. But when I say that one little old mare will die, well, then everyone loses their minds. Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order, and everything becomes chaos. I'm an agent of chaos. Oh, and you know the thing about chaos? It's fear.
And I know that the problem with explaining this to civilians is, you know, you talk about it in the sense of an operation and it sounds evil, and it's because it is. There's evil people doing these agendas. We've done nothing but videos about this, and I mean, they are evil, right? And they're using children to prove their point, and they're using a school as their stage, and they're using our community for their agendas. So it is evil. I'm not taking away from that. I'm just saying, look at it from a military standpoint. It's an operation, okay? I do active force-on-force drills all the time. It's nothing to rent buildings, land, vehicles, and all these situations to do a force-on-force drill for like an active shooter scenario. I'm going to post a video and kind of let it play as I'm talking, but even in World War II, it's been documented that they would do things, to falsify war. Like they had inflatable tanks that they'd set up so German bombers would fly by and think that, all these troops and all these tanks are stationed when really they're a bunch of balloons, right? So it's very easy to go in the middle of nowhere with get a bunch of dudes, get a bunch of gear, and start lighting stuff up. And I think that civilians and even my brothers, and sisters in my line of work lose sight of that, right? Because if you're a civilian, you don't know anything about it. If you're in my line of work, you just think, dang, what if I was there? What if that's my body cam? What if I got this call? And what I would do is this, that, and the other. But you got to remember that this is not you. So again, I know for civilians, it's hard to even picture this realm or what goes on in it. But for anybody in my line of work, it's easy to agree, right? If you got your body cam on, or if you got a GoPro, set up to where it could view all the guys running drill force on force, you amplify that on government funding level, and you look at, people like the Masons and stuff like this, and it's easy to shut down a school and run drill, and it looks very real. It is real, right? When we're training and we're doing these active drills, there's been times, people run at me with a firearm or a knife or a syringe in training, and it's as real as it gets. Grown man running at you full speed, because that's his job, is to try to get you, and your job is to try to stay alive. That's as real as it gets, right? So it's easy to have a camera, run drill, and post it, and everybody thinks it's legit. I could post body cam footage, and people are going to be like, wow, that this happened. All it takes, the hardest part is typing up a story, right? And again, guys, all you need is eyes to see and ears to hear, right? So what I'm saying is, as an individual with multiple years experience in, hunting humans, studying their psychological issues and how they're going to handle things, and conducting private investigations on these people, seeing how they act in society versus how they act when they have a moment alone. Even if you're just a random person with a Google machine, it's easy to just go on the Google machine, type in, and print out a list of these events. I got to watch out for the algorithm, right? And from there, you can do a little bit of private investigations of your own, and you'll see the numerology or the gematria in every one of these events, right? I have one now, and I might even post it for this video's sake, or I might just let you look it up. I haven't decided yet. But I did print out a list of all these papers, right? And on it here, let me just pull it up, right? It says incident ID and the government database. It says incident date, and then it says the state that it occurred in, the city or county that it occurred in, the address, the number of people that were reported dead, and the number that were reported injured. I'm just going to pick a couple random days here, guys, and you could do the homework on your own. And again, I might put the pictures up. On, March 5th, for example, there was 4 events that were mass you-know-whats. On the same day, 4 events. One was in Illinois, one was in Maryland, one was in Florida, and one was in Louisiana. Okay? All these events, which have numerology in their addresses, by the way, they all had the same amount of people dead and the same amount of people injured. Now, just like, the clip from the movie Signs that I played earlier, right? What is the chance that every one of these events that happened on the same day, had the same amount of, or the same statistics, let's just say, because I'm trying to watch the algorithm. I don't want to get this pulled off. I can't say certain words. But what are the chances that on the same day in 4 different states, 4 different cities, there was the same event that went the same exact way, had the same outcome? even if you're one of those people, again, going back to the reference of the Signs movie clip, where you're just going to say it's a coincidence, right? It's pretty mathematically impossible to have these things happen on the same exact day, same scenario with the same results. And this is documented stuff, by the way, right? So for me, right, again, there's a lot of things that stuck out with this Nashville thing, such as 33 Burton Hills Boulevard. And again, the 3 and the 3 and then the ages. But again, I'll get back to this in a second, right? So there's things that stick out. If you do your research and you look at these events, you'll see the correlation, right? It's my job to look at the who, what, where, when, why, and find a solution and get the job done. And it's easy if you have a little bit of time on your hand to do the same, right? And I'm just flipping through notes, by the way, so forgive the paper sound, right? Anyway, I know, saying the word conspiracy is always easier than looking it up, but it only takes a few minutes, right? Again, I always hear people say, oh, you're some nutso conspiracy nut on, YouTube. You're doing too much YouTube. And then something happens with their car and they YouTube it. Like, hey, I don't know how to paint my wall, so let me YouTube it. You know what I mean? It's hypocritical already, and I'm pretty over it. But I know it's easy to just say it's a conspiracy theory, but it's also just as easy to just type it in the Google machine. The Google machine, guys. Come on, do it. My point is, it just takes a couple minutes and you can figure it out for yourself, right? And you'll see that the mainstream media just plays into it. And as far as the mainstream media goes, by the way, I've done multiple videos on like the NFL and the MLB and all this stuff, and even the mainstream media news, right? I've done videos on all this, on Project Mockingbird, all this stuff, and the crisis actors, man. Look at the crisis actors. And again, if reading is too difficult for you, then they show it in movies and TV shows as well, right? It's easy to tell as a parent, right? How many of you guys are parents? You can see when somebody cares about their kid, bare minimum. But when somebody loses their kid, that's a type of breakdown that's unexplainable. It's uncomprehendable. It can't be compared to anything else. It's natural to lose your parents. It's natural to lose your siblings. It's unnatural to lose your children, right? And most people, I've seen people who've lost their children. Unfortunately, I've been in situations where people have lost their children. I've seen the after effects of it. And let me just tell you right now, most people freak out when they lose one of their AirPods and they need to go buy a new AirPod. And they're like, oh, now I got to go buy a whole nother set just so I could have my left. And you got these crisis actors on here not even batting an eye that they just lost their child. Can any of my fellow parents agree with me and say that these people are not acting like they just lost children?
Aren't you guys tired of covering this? Aren't you guys tired of being here and having to cover all of these mass shootings? I'm from Highland Park. Family vacation with my son, visiting my sister-in-law. I have been lobbying in D.C. since we survived a mass shooting in July. I have met with over 130 lawmakers. How is this still happening? How are our children still dying, and why are we failing them? Gun violence is the #1 killer of children and teens. It has overtaken cars. Assault weapons are contributing to the border crisis and fentanyl. We are arming cartels with our guns and our loose gun laws, and these shootings and these mass shootings will continue to happen until our lawmakers step up and pass gun safety legislation. I'm pretty sure this was an unsecured weapon that this teenager got a hold of. We can't even pass gun safety, like safe storage laws in this country to protect kids from getting a hold of weapons that they shoot each other with.
Right. And by the way, guys, being in the field, it's always easy to see when somebody has that good old-fashioned CIA training.
Who the hell is this?
It smells like government.
Right? And you can see it on the way that they talk, the points that they use, their over-explanation, right? Like this lady who's saying, I was in this state for this event, and now I'm here in this state for this event, but it's because of that. Again, justifying that they're not a crisis actor, and that's all it takes for the common person to be like, oh, okay, then they're not a crisis actor. They're there on vacation. They said that in the interview. It's like you can just tell somebody something and they'll believe it nowadays. You can literally just tell somebody, hey, boys can have babies, and people are like, okay. That's the day and age that we live in here, okay, guys? So, again, crisis actors are 100% a thing, okay? Anybody would freak out if they lost their child, and again, it's easy to see CIA programming. You could smell it a mile away.
Already, according to the UN, at least 331 civilians have been killed so far. That number could grow rapidly in the days ahead. CNN Clarissa Ward joins us now from Kyiv. Clarissa, this new reporting that U.S. and NATO officials believe Russia is poised to bombard cities into submission, that is what that means. That is what will happen in the days ahead. Are there any signs that it is, is there anything to prevent that?
Honestly, Anderson, from what we're seeing at the moment, it doesn't appear that there's any potential exit ramp in the wings, so to speak. We do know that after the last round of talks that were held,
they'll point at people, very dramatic. What if it was your kid? Or what if it was your kid? And what if it was your kid? And then people are like, man, if it was my kid, oh, I don't know. I better listen to what they say, and it could be my kid, but I'll still send him to school tomorrow. Again, you can't make it up, man. Again, if you're awake just a tad, you can see it all. Now, the psychology aspect of it is for me to, it's like fun to watch in society, right? It's like extremely easy to like, again, rent a facility and run force-on-force drills. It's mandatory in my line of work, right? And again, you add that Uncle Sam funding, and they can do whatever they want and make it look as real as they want. They can let the news go there and make a big old scene. They could let anybody go there and open fire. Again, it's for a civilian impossible to comprehend that you can run live force-on-force drills in broad daylight. It's almost like unheard of. They're like, it's like a mental thing. They're like, isn't it just cholos that shoot guns when it's dark? And it's like, no, that's not how firearms work. They can go off at any point in time, and if ordered, boot can do it whenever, wherever, whyever, however, right? And they can exercise those military drills or even start a war for reasons that we don't even get a full explanation to. And yet we put our lives on the line, and here we are, right? But again, everybody names something a conspiracy, although movies and TVs and history, books, everything shows how easy it is to compromise a society, right? It's everywhere. We're groomed and conditioned for the collapse of government of every kind, right? I mean, we got zombie movies, we got The Lion King. The collapse of society is craved by our generation at this point, and yet we can't see the big picture of how we're in a spiritual warfare. We know that the end is coming. Everybody can feel it. You have movies like Mad Max and Zombieland and all these things, right? Again, it could be a funny movie, it could be a kid's movie, it could be a serious movie, but it's all about our fall as a society for this end of the line to where it's just a giant desert and it's no man's land. Again, this generation craves it, but they still can't see that we're in spiritual warfare. And it's so frustrating to me, right? How they can say, oh, this is evil, but I don't believe in God. And then they'll go, from that to, oh, well, now I'm mad at God. And how can God let this happen? And this is what I think of every time, one of these school events pop up, is I just, again, think of everybody just, oh, well, how would he allow this and explain this to me? And everybody wants an explanation now. And the first thing that always comes to my mind in times like this is from the book of Hosea. It's chapter 7, verses 13 through 16, where it says, woe to them, right? For they have strayed from me. Destruction is theirs. for they have rebelled against me. I would redeem them, but they speak lies against me, and they do not cry to me from their heart. When they wail on their beds, for the sake of grain and new wine, they assemble themselves. They turn away from me, although I train and strengthen their arms. Yet they devise evil against me. And again, that just goes hand in hand with what we're going through. They want an explanation from him, right? But it's because they mock him. How many people here, instead of picking the left or the right, are just going with morals, saying, no, this is what's right, this is what's wrong, and I don't care about a political party. I don't care about any law or legislation because it doesn't matter. Because I know that it doesn't matter. Because I know that the end is, again, Mad Max, right? That's the problem. Everybody knows that it's coming. I mean, the kids nowadays have zero work ethic, zero morals, zero drive. They don't even know what gender they are. How does a society operate like that? It doesn't. You just see the collapse coming in every sense. We're about to get the worst depression ever, followed by the worst spiritual events ever. And we deserve it. It's the most ugly day and age ever. We're already the result of Babylon and Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And again, we deserve it, dude. I mean, we allow sin to consume our children. We just throw them a cell phone and call it a day. We don't talk to them about what's right and wrong, and it's very unheard of. Instead, we tell them, hey, you can't judge people, and you can't say anything, right? And we've been given reason after reason to keep our kids home from the... They actually did make parents take care of their kids at the beginning of the pandemic for the phase of making everybody stay at home for that mandate time period. And I mean, all I heard was parents say that they couldn't handle their kids at home. It was driving them crazy, right? Not to mention, the parent, just saying they have that need to say, oh, my kid's doing good in school. Oh, my kid graduated. And it's like this generation of mom and dad even likes being on TikTok and doing dances. So they want to be able to say, hey, my kid graduated. And they think that it's socially awkward to homeschool their child when not very long ago it was very common and way more efficient, right? So again, the spiritual warfare is all about giving human beings options and seeing if they'll make a good or bad decision, right? That's what spiritual warfare is all about. So like our Father says, we're judged based off of our knowledge, right? And now parents know that they can homeschool their kids, but they're choosing not to homeschool.
We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall. All in all, you're just another brick in the wall.
10-year-old man died in Beijing. China has reported 26,824 new COVID-19 infections in the last 24 hours itself, out of which 621 new local cases were detected in Beijing. Guangzhou, which is a southern city of nearly 19 million people, is battling the largest outbreak of COVID-19 infections. It has now ordered a 5-day lockdown and has also suspended dine-in services.
Getting story we've been tracking since yesterday when we found out this was all unfolding. Another community devastated by gun violence after a 28-year-old opened fire inside of a Nashville elementary school there.
And 3 children, 3 adults were killed in all of this. And now police have released body cam footage, and Bob DeCastro joins us with more on this horrific story and the latest updates. Bob?
I watched the video in its entirety, and it is just chilling. We want to warn you that the video released by Nashville Metro Police can be graphic and sensitive to view. The footage comes from the body cameras of officers Rex Engelbert and Michael Colazzo as they entered Covenant School amid wailing fire alarms. They immediately go into several evacuated rooms to look for the shooter. They then head upstairs after hearing loud gunfire coming from there, and then they find the shooter near a big window. The video then goes on to show the officers shoot the suspect as one screams, "Stop moving, suspect down, suspect down." Now, that dramatic video has been released as investigators are looking into the motivations of the shooter. She has now been identified as 28-year-old Audrey Elizabeth Hale and is said to be a former student at the school who identifies as being transgender. A former middle school basketball teammate told investigators that she received a text from the shooter earlier saying, quote, "I'm planning to die today. This is not a joke." Hale was heavily armed with 2 assault-style firearms and a handgun. Law enforcement believe at least 2 weapons were legally purchased. Police say there was evidence of considerable planning.
We have a manifesto, we have some writings that we're going over that pertain to this day, the actual incident. We have a map drawn out of how this was all going to take place.
I think the manifesto is going to shed a lot into this person's mindset, but they're also going to be matching it up with their social media, interviews they're doing with family, friends, co-workers, and really looking at the totality of this person's life and what drove them to this violent behavior.
That community now mourning the victims. 3 students are among the dead, all of them just 9 years old. 3rd grader Hallie Scruggs was the daughter of the pastor.
And again, I have kids, and for that time period, I mean, homeschooling is very easy. They just sit there on a computer and they don't do anything. Most kids are so like productive now, they can go make their own food and the whole 9. So it's like you really have no reason to send your child to school. Oh, I want them to be social. Okay, well, put them in like some kind of karate or self-defense since you're so worried about people pulling a weapon on them, right? Make them the solution, not the victim. That's one way to look at it, right? So again, it's just crazy to me because how many reasons do you need? Now that you know my line of work, there's not one person I've arrested who doesn't have, if they have one drug, they have them all. People who have fentanyl have over 1,000 pills at all times. People with one drug have every drug and every tool for that drug. And drugs, specifically fentanyl, has the highest death rate over anything right now. Even the pandemic. Look at the numbers. It's disgusting. So you have reasons for narcotics, and then you look at the pharmaceuticals that are involved in all these things, right? They always have, oh, this guy had mental disorder, and this thing had a mental disorder, and you don't hear any backlash for Big Pharma. You don't hear anything about the narcotics or the narcotics that are prescribed, okay? Those are half the problem there. I don't need specific tools, although they do make it easier, right? But if you know me, you know what I'm capable of.
I once saw him kill 3 men in a bar with a pencil. With a fucking pencil.
You got that right, just a pencil. What are you gonna start banning pencils next? What are the kids gonna write with? There you go. Get out of here. Miss me with all that. My point is, it's pretty sad how parents know all the risks and they're still willing to let other people raise and brainwash their children. And now it's about things such as sex and gender, right? There's small children getting talks about grown-up things, and that's disgusting. And now on top of that, they're asking them their identity, and they're able to say whatever they want. And actually, I do have a family member who had an issue with that. They literally went to a back-to-school conference, and the teacher was referring to an elementary school student as another name and another gender, and the mom, who I know, was like, yeah, you're talking about the wrong kid. I don't even think you're paying attention. They said, no, this is what your child chooses to identify as, so as long as you're in the school, you need to identify your child as a different gender and a different name, at which point the mom had to explain to this elementary school child the effects of saying that you have a different gender, although that makes no sense to somebody in elementary school because they just think they're a boy or a girl. So when they start trying to play make-believe, this gets taken as a serious thing. And these are things that people like in Canada are docking as a mental illness. So they could be marking your children as mentally ill while you're being a pushover and not standing up for what's right. And you're thinking that it's just to like not cause problems, when at school it's causing a bigger problem for you, and you're going to have to deal with this whole like, hey, your kid's got this, that, and the other going on in a few months in court, because everything has some kind of loophole and way for us to get in trouble and pay some kind of fine. That's what it all comes down to, right? Paying some kind of fine and sacrificing a part of yourself for their agenda. That's my spill on that. Sorry for that, by the way. Let's get back to it, right? It's again easier for people to listen to celebrities who make a bigger deal, an emotional statement, than the mom who lost their child, right? Let's keep this in mind for all these events. It's easy to let them say, hey, is it your child? But realistically, is it your child? And you still have a choice to protect that child. And now, watch how that mom who's pointing fingers at you is taking that loss. And that should be enough for you anyway. And again, if there's celebrities crying more than the mom who lost a child, there's a problem, right? And this is how the cycle begins. And people get pushed in that far left crazy mindset. And again, I don't partake in the political paradigm, right, between the right or the left. I don't partake in that. But it's easy to see that celebrities, you know, they just name it like a firearm thing, and then they question God. And then the news creates a political, racial, and gender separation. Music shut down their tours and make lyrics about it. They all tweet the same point of view. And then every cartoon character is getting the shot. And now we're all on the same page, and the masses are abiding, right? This is my point, guys. Let's just open up our eyes and see what they're doing. See the repetitiveness. It doesn't take much, right? And just like that, you'll be able to wake up a tad, right? You'll be able to break out of that brainwashed mentality. Anyhow, again, sorry for the rant. It's hard to do these videos because, you know, again, you have two types of people of the flesh and people of the spirit. And again, people of the flesh, man, they'll be on that far left stereotype, totally extreme, like, hey, oh my gosh, how do you reach them, and can we? And then we got the people of the spirit that don't partake in any politics, right? Then you got the people of the flesh that only care about themselves and people's opinions of themselves. And then you have people of the spirit who only care for others. And you got to make a video in the middle ground and trying to reach as many as you can, right? You got these people on the flesh side who like say they hate religion and religion's the problem and beliefs are the problem, although they got the craziest religions and beliefs themselves. Like, it's like, geez, if you just kept it in one place like a church, at least we don't have to talk about it, right? Where on the spiritual side, it's like we don't even need a church. We don't care about religion. All we care about is our Father and the truth and loving people, right? And we love people even when they treat us like dogs, while people of the flesh literally love their dogs more than they love people, right? You got those people on the flesh that just support agenda, where us of the spirit try to just support people. You know what I mean? You got people who are pro this, and then it's just crazy, man. It's never ending, right? And then you got the people that are in the right that sees the wrong, right? But then they don't see the signs. They're like, oh yeah, no. I mean, these people are evil. They're demons. And then they're like, oh yeah, but no, I don't see any repetitiveness in these things. And I'll still side with Trump. And it's like, come on, guys. You're still going to have faith in these politicians as if they're not one and the same. Don't you guys miss the good old days? Because I do. When people would say, oh, all these politicians are the same, right? When you'd hear things like, oh, it's the man. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, dude. It's gone. It's literally dead. And people have faith in government. They have faith in politics and politicians, right? And again, I mean, the people in the right are just as bad because they believe in the Creator, but then they're like, oh, but I get behind this guy who, and it's like, come on, guys. Again, don't put all your faith in the system changing. It's impossible. That's not how it works. If you guys don't see that, again, Trump and Biden are 2-1 and the same, I don't know how to reach you anymore. They do both. I mean, both of them are equally as racist, equally as creepy, equally as incapable, equally possibly both AI units or green screens for all we know in this day and age. That's how far it is. We don't even know if these people are clones, AIs, green screen. Like, you can't make this stuff up. You got people falling upstairs and grabbing people inappropriately and talking however they want. You have to admit, it's crazy. It's a little bit different from when your grandpappy was a boy, right? Come on. Again, people in the right are just as bad because they're almost there, but they still have this little form of idolatry and selfishness, right? Or sin or hate for something. It's something holding them back. And these videos are hard because you got to try to get everybody to the spiritual side, knowing that you're not going to, and praying that you could at least get one. So again, sorry for my rant. Let's get back to the signs and things that were presented to me, right? So, I knew something was coming based off of the jobs that I was getting, okay? I knew that something was coming because the Trump enough is enough card, and Trump said he was going to go to jail. We did a video about this a while ago. It's on the website. It's on YouTube. Check it out. Talking about his arrest and what was to come. At which point, I started looking into March. Again, based off of the beginning and the intro of this video, we know that American English and the words all mean something, right? Every word means something and has power. Again, from my line of work, when somebody says march over there, I think marching, right? Like marching to war, okay? So March, the month of March, has significance. I had to look at that. I had to look at the numerology. The month is 3, right? January, February, March. It's the third month of the year. So they say based off of how our... that's a whole nother topic for another time. Let's not lose you, okay? Also, key things to remember, okay? The Bible, the word, the original language was Hebrew. It got broken up and scattered around. It eventually ended up going from Hebrew to Greek to Roman to this Anglo-Saxon mix of what we have now, okay? So Roman and Greek is always good to look into if you're a believer and you're trying to look for the truth. So Roman, and the Roman god of war was March, who was a guardian of agriculture. So this tells me there's war and something to do with agriculture. Now, I've been doing videos about the food supply, what they're doing to food, how we need to stack up on food. This is all like, I say it till I'm blue in the face. Grab yourself some gear, make a good kit, stack up, be ready to help those you love, and be ready to fight for what you can gain, because time's coming, okay? So, I already knew, again, Roman, the whole god of war, being March, and then marching into war. Okay, you're starting to see where things are starting to go together. Now, in numerology, right, in gematria, 22 means destruction, typically. It's like death or destruction. When you see the number 22, it means something bad's typically going to happen when it's in the media. If you're a believer, then it may mean something to you differently. It's probably based off you as an individual. My wife sees numbers all the time. Her interpretations of some numbers are different from mine, and it's circumstantial. It's based off of who you are sometimes. But as far as their code, I mean, you could read books like Freemasonry for Dummies. You can read all these books about how signs, symbols, and numbers are key.
Symbols are a language that can help us understand our past. As the saying goes, a picture says 1,000 words, but which words? Interpret for me, please, this symbol, first thing that comes to mind, anybody.
Hatred, racism. Ku Klux Klan.
Yes, interesting. But they would disagree with you in Spain. There they are robes worn by priests. Now, this symbol, anyone?
Evil. La fourche du diable.
In English, please?
Devil's pitchfork.
Poor Poseidon. That is his trident, a symbol of power to millions of the ancients. Now, this symbol.
Madonna and child. Faith, Christianity.
No, it's a pagan god Horus and his Mother Isis centuries before the birth of Christ. Understanding our past determines actively our ability to understand the present. So, how do we sift truth from belief? How do we write our own histories, personally or culturally, and thereby define ourselves? How do we penetrate years, centuries of historical distortion to find original truth?
Okay, so 22 to the occult, to the evil ones, is their sign of saying destruction and chaos, essentially. Also, so stepping back, March is going to be something to do with war, some kind of fighting, some kind of aggression, having to do with agriculture as well. Again, the agriculture not so much to do with this video, but other ones. And if you look at things going around the U.S., that's happening right now too. But staying on point, on topic, knowing March is going to be a problem, knowing 22 equals disaster. I knew something was going to happen on the 22nd, which is why if you know me personally, on my social media, I posted a bunch of warnings, and I started saying, hey, they're calling me in for duty for locations where even your kids may be. They're posting all these locations of potential jobs, and stay away from these areas, times, places, such and such and such and such. You don't really get likes on those videos, but if you post something that has to do with a puppy or sports, it gets millions, right? My point is, I knew something was coming the 22nd, just didn't know when, why, where, how, although I kind of had some ideas to that. But also, the 22nd of March has significance, right? 32223 would be the date. 322 is the number of skull and crossbones, okay? Skull and crossbones being the elites of the Freemasons, which, oh, hey, did you know that for this East High School shooting, one of the people's name was Mr. Mason, who, good thing I'm a PI, I was able to see that he attends a local lodge as well. So not only is his name Mr. Mason, he is a Mason, and he fit into this agenda on 32223, which if you read March 22nd, 2023, again, forward or backwards, it's 32223. So that's, again, a double code that something's going to happen. And again, I knew all this was coming. Try to warn people, and what do you do other than that, right? So I knew that that was going to be a problem, and another reason is because the 22nd of March is the 81st day of the year, which 81 in gematria equals ritual. So looking at all this stuff, knowing what I know about skull and crossbones based off our other videos, if you watch along with us on all our episodes, we've pointed out before 322 and skull and crossbones and all of what it means. But in short, skull and crossbones are the elites of the Freemasons who like doing things such as Comedy Central roasts about Donald Trump. They like doing things to embarrass people and stage this big event and make a big prank. They like to do false flags, and they have a sick sense of humor. And again, this is something I've talked about in all of our videos. It's kind of like when you're watching a rated R movie and they make a gay joke. Like, if you laugh at it, you're now open to gay things being funny. And if you think it's funny, you're going to tolerate gay things going on with you a little bit more than the guy who's like, dude, keep those jokes away from me. That's not funny. Do you get what I'm saying here? So they're really into comedy and false flags. So I knew on 3/22/23, due to skull and crossbones, due to forward and backwards, look at our mirror video and the upside down video, look at our past videos, it'll explain all this stuff. We seen this coming, just didn't know to the extent on what it would be, right? So another sign that we seen, and when I looked into March, was March 20th was the start of spring equinox. Now, I've done multiple videos on the spring equinox, all these new moons and the full moons, and they were saying the spring equinox this year was the new moon in Aries, Aries being the Greek god of war. So we talked about March, the Roman god of war, and Aries, the Greek god of war. So March, obviously, for the Roman standpoint, is the month that we're in, and this new moon is happening in March, and it's the new moon in Aries. Again, I don't get all into the stars and all this stuff, but it's important because it's important in the occult, because, again, talking about this on recent videos, check out our old videos, the Bible talking about the fallen ones, the Watchers, coming down and creating the Nephilim being the Greek gods and goddesses, right? People that were worshipped, right? These giants that had, you know, all this is covered in other videos. Let's not get too off topic. My point is, it's all important to look at the Greek and Roman mythology, because those are the people that crucified, quote unquote, the Messiah, and those are the people that, quote unquote, rewrote our history and rewrote our Bibles, rewrote our Father's name from Hebrew to, again, look at my Yahusha, the one you call Jesus video. The name Jesus means nothing, and I believe in the Bible. So they've messed with us so much we don't even know how to call our Father by his proper name, right? Another correlation that I seen with the month of March was the movie The Purge. As crazy as it is, it says that Purge Day is March 21st and it ends on March 22nd. So March 22nd, when the East High School shooting happened, was Purge Day on the movie, right? And this is where people are like, oh, bro, you're taking movies too literal. Now, I know that's a lot, right? Because I got to get in my rants and state my beliefs, but I also got to throw and blurt all these signs and symbols at you. But again, this is all going somewhere. So there's a direct correlation between all the March revelations that I received and the things going on in March. Even going back to the Trump thing, the enough is enough.
We want to express the President's appreciation for the first responders and prayers for all the families affected by this shooting. While we don't know yet all the details in this latest tragic shooting, we know that too often our schools and communities are being devastated by gun violence. Schools should be safe spaces for our kids to grow and learn, and for our educators to teach. As you all know, President Biden has taken more action than any president in history on gun safety. From nearly two dozen actions, including the executive order he just signed last month, or this month, pardon me, to the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act legislation he signed into law after the tragedies in Uvalde and Buffalo. He also believes it's not enough. We must do more, and he wants Congress to act. Because enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
Y'all had enough yet? In Nashville, 3 kids so far have been pronounced dead. 3 adults have been pronounced dead from a f***ing school goddamn shooting. When is enough enough? If this doesn't make you sick to your f***ing stomach, then you're a piece of shit. F***ing babies, man. It's enough enough.
Enough is enough.
It's enough enough.
Enough is enough.
It's enough enough.
Enough is enough.
Okay, you look at these 2 shootings at East High School in Denver, Colorado, and this other one in Nashville, okay? And they're polar opposites, right? The one in Nashville is a church school. The one in East High School, not so much. You got the trans shooter and the black kid. You got the red hat and you got the bad environment, right? You got the person with a vest on and fully automatic rifles, and you got the kid who stole the pistol. You have the trans who's going to create an uprising for the trans community, and it's already happened. And you got the young black kid who creates an uprising for the far left, who's just looking for an excuse. Again, it's not hard to false flag these events. I mean, I could put stuff on the board, but I mean, this is all stuff we've covered in old videos, right? Not only do groups and societies such as the Masons have their groups and societies for their kids, they're all on the same page. It's not very hard to get somebody's kid. I mean, this kid could be Mr. Mason's son for most of what most of you know, right? It's very easy to run drill, is my point. And you're able to see that the trans versus the opposite, you can see how that's going to just cause an uprising. And we've been seeing a lot of that. There's protests everywhere. It's in Israel, it's in Kyiv, it's in, New York, it's in Miami. It's spreading like a wildfire. People are protesting for every little thing now. And just in these two incidences, they're able to get both sides of the spectrum riled up, right? Without even seeing how exactly the same they are. They're just opposite. It's Coke and Pepsi, the red corner and the blue corner. It's the Blood and the Crips. They give you an option of what you want to get pissed off about. So, it just depends on if you're going to. The crazy part, too, is with the Nashville one, you got 32723 as a date. I'll put that on the screen on what that stands for. I can't say it because I'll definitely get this video taken down. That has to do with children. I've done other videos about this, how sick it is, how it motivated me, in my career. I can say that this is an actual thing. People do actually buy this stuff on the internet. People do actually traffic people, unfortunately. I've spent a lot of my time in my career trying to help this problem go away, and it doesn't. And this is the most effective way we can, is by exposing all this stuff, showing the signs, showing how they put it right in front of us, and trying to just warn others so the evil can die. Because the more people that wake up, the more the evil dies, right? Again, now let's break down this Nashville one, okay? On the code on this one, the victims were 9, 9, 9, 61, 60, and 61. This is how numerology works, guys. The ones don't count because they stand singular, and the zeros don't count because they have no value. What do you have left for these people that died? 999, 666. 999 is obviously the opposite of 666, and 69 has a lot of meaning behind it, like the duality of man, right? Which you've seen in the shooter. It's trans, half woman, half man. Duality, right? The code 999 in Gematria stands for things like Trump for president, which you can see this as an agenda that the person's even wearing a red hat. And it also stands for listen carefully, right? So listen carefully to the signs, people. And again, I've been seeing license plates all over. I might even just say screw it and post it, regardless of if you can try to find my location. And regardless of privacy reasons, I really don't care, because our fathers have been showing us signs. So it's cool that 999 stands for listen carefully, while I've been seeing nothing but signs. Then you look at the 61, 60, and 61. The ones and zeros cancel themselves out, and it's 666. That's the mark of the beast, the devil's number, right? There's a lot of numerology going on in all this, and it should be very easy to see. Even if you don't know Gematria and you don't know what the code stands for, you should be able to see, wow, there's 3 victims that were 9, and wow, there's 6, 6, and another 6. Your eyes see it, your mind just says not to, right? Again, with this Nashville shooting, I've seen I've seen videos on military people even breaking down what happened here and how this went and how these people are heroes. Again, it's very easy to put yourself in those shoes and say, if this was me, okay, this is my squad, and it's easy to develop love for these people. However, you should be able to see that this shooter just laid down 3 children and is the most calm person I've ever seen in my entire life. I've seen people, as soon as somebody pulls a trigger, I don't care who you are, your adrenaline spikes and you start acting different. Now you start laying down 3 kids and you're not as calm as this shooter is, okay? Not to mention how they're gripping the assault rifle, not to mention the fact that they, for some reason, needed 2 assault rifles. I don't know anybody that carries 2 assault rifles. That's just stupid. I don't know why you wouldn't just have extra mags. You can see by how they're handling the gun that they're really not that proficient, which is, again, the point, so I could get that. But break it down little by little. Look at the police. First and foremost, they should stay in shape. Some of them did good. Some of them are having a very hard time breathing. This is, again, fellas, why we got to stay on our cardio game, do those calisthenics, be ready to train in your kit, and operate correctly. Because when it goes down, the last thing you want to be is a guy huffing and puffing on camera, right? They didn't properly clear, although in some of the edits they did. But I think, again, it could be nerves, but more importantly than that, it didn't look like they knew what they were doing, in the sense of, if there's an active shooter, you're going to clear some positions that they didn't clear more than what they did. There's a lot of dead space and a lot of rooms that they skipped. It's almost like they literally knew exactly where the shooter was, although if you look at multiple body cams, that shouldn't make sense and that shouldn't be the case. It just takes a little bit of investigating and a lot of watching to see it. So you can see the flaws, but you can also see how the military guys and everybody who trains is like, America, that's me and my boys, we're taking out the threat. And it's like, yeah, but let's be realistic here. I don't know, it's just hard for people to get out that idolatry. They're like, no, I'm going to side with the right. No, I'm going to stick with my brother. And it's like, I get all that, dude, but it's also, again, easy to just rent a school and run force-on-force drills. And you look at the police stepping over the kids, which the kids are blurred out, so you can't tell if they're kids. I know that, you want to prevent loss. You want to stop the shooter from getting more people, but there's typically somebody who's going to have some kind of moral obligation to stay and try to help those babies and to try to figure it out. Even in that bad situation, because you know that your dudes are in there. There's one shooter, of course you need to have your fellas' backs. But in the same sense, you're here to help the children, right? The presentation to the shooter was off. You see, this shooter's shooting outside at a line full of kids that the staff had, like, holding hands and standing like a fence, which is the worst thing you could do if somebody has an assault rifle, right? Line up a bunch of kids, tell them to hold hands, stand in a single file line, and then just pray that these 5.56 rounds don't go through them. It's actually horrible to think about, which, by the way, the staff knew exactly how many kids were missing. These people had keys in advance for the building. There was one where I seen a teacher give keys to one of the sergeants. But, I mean, the way that these guys entered, there's just so many things I could nitpick and say, come on, man. But I'll let you guys do your homework too, man. I don't want to give away too many secrets. I feel like the enemy does listen to these videos too. And you don't want to give away too much, right? You don't want to tell people how to take out and clear rooms if it's going to be in the hands of the wrong person. My point is, look at the correlation. There's the Trump is enough playing card. You see that with all of it, right? The trans thing. They're saying enough is enough. We're going to protest. We're not going to be the victims anymore, although children are the victims. Enough is enough, right? Black on black crime. You got this young man who's African American who shoots the old man who's African American, and enough is enough. Now it has no separation. When really we're looking at all these false flags, and what we should be paying attention to are things like the natural disasters. Look at the tornado numbers, the earthquake numbers, the fire numbers, the flood numbers, the hurricane numbers, the snow numbers. And I do a lot of videos trying to help people prep and stay ready for this stuff. That makes me an enemy to the state. Now, my spiritual beliefs make me an enemy to the state. And what do you do, right? But there's protests going on everywhere. There's natural disasters going on everywhere. Civil unrest is imminent. And you see all these train derailings. You see the water supply being polluted and poisoned. And then you also see bottled water supplies being polluted and poisoned. We're clearly running out of crops. We have no land. We have no sources to bring them in if all the trains are derailing. And there's natural disasters going on everywhere. Oh, yeah, and by the way, the dollar's going digital. So we're running out of time, people. I know this was like me blurting out a whole bunch of signs and things that I see, and some people will be like, okay, a bunch of numbers, what are you talking about? Okay, well, not me, I don't believe in God. Oh, say a prayer, my grandma's in heaven. And it's like, it's the time for hypocrisy is over. If you think, again, your grandma went to heaven, then you better start saying your prayers. You better start believing in the Most High. If you would like to think that you're going to see your grandma in heaven again someday, well, you better get your stuff together, you better say your prayers, and you better repent, because we're running out of time. Again, whether you're on the this is my goal, right? If you're on the far left, you need to move over to the right. If you're on the right, you need to move over to the spiritual realm. That's just what it is, because we all have some growing up to do, and even us in the spiritual realm have a lot we need to learn. However, by us making videos like this, trying to get everybody else up to speed and trying to convince them that we know what we're talking about while they sit back mocking, that doesn't help, right? That's us kind of wasting time. What we could do is all just admit that, hey, evil's evil, right? Because that's what it always comes back down to. A girl will say, oh, well, yeah, I'm pro schmushmortion because I could get raped in an alley, but I don't want to carry a gun. And I'm also the type of girl that doesn't walk in alleys, but I don't want your Bible on my body. And it's like, how do you reach people nowadays when everything is a direct assault at the Most High, when they're blaming everything on the spiritual realm, although it has nothing to do with it? Just like the verse in Hosea, it's like you're crying out to him, questioning him, not understanding that it's because of you, right? It's because it's your choices, because you're the one, right? I love you guys, and I'm sorry for my rants. I'm sorry if they were a little bit more unorganized than I wanted to. Again, the processes of making these videos is hard, trying to satisfy everybody and trying to at least just get the one. I pray and hope that you guys could put the numbers together for yourselves, and next time you're in the laundromat and you see something on the news and like 33 people, then you guys can see it for yourself, right? Again, how many times can we warn you guys? How many ways can he warn you guys? I mean, I'm running out, guys. Like, I mean, I even took a little break from doing the videos because I have a profession where I see children being hurt daily. Unfortunately, I see what's happening to children, and I see the kind of households they're in, and it's the worst circumstances consistently, and nobody cares, and we care, right? So it's trying to get as many people together that care so we can be ready for all of this. And I look down and 333s on the screen, amen. We just need to be ready. A bare minimum for a natural disaster, bare minimum for food shortage, bare minimum for the enemy trying to take everything that we have. I mean, at this point, everything's being threatened. Our morals, our ways of life, our currency, our land, our food, our water, our children. I mean, at what point do you guys either fully just say you're a slave or stand up and fight? And sometimes, you know, again, fighting isn't always with our fists. It's not always with all this other stuff. It's what we're doing now, right? It's conversating. Fighting evil is conversating. It's getting rid of the evil mindset. And it's identifying those who are not willing to change that and putting them where they belong, whether it be in a prison or hell, whatever the case, right? But true evil has no right on this earth. And I think we could all agree to that. Nobody likes being treated wrong. Nobody likes evil, right? Nobody likes having things done to them in a negative manner. And that all goes away with morals, guys. That all goes away with the belief of right and wrong. I mean, do you think it's right to kill people? No. Do you think it's right to cheat? No. Do you think it's right to steal? No. It's like you go down the 10 Commandments and it's like, okay, I mean, yeah, it's basically like what we should and shouldn't do, right? It's the bare minimums of what we shouldn't do, right? He says things like, I mean, don't have sex with animals. It's like, why did he need to say that? But you look at this earth, look at how sexually immoral everybody is, and it's easy to see. I was just listening to Joe Rogan the other day because it was on, and he had a clip of him talking about watching somebody doing something disgusting with a snake. And it's like, I mean, this is normal conversation on podcasts and stuff now. This is the day and age we live in. What's wrong is right, and what's right is wrong. And I just pray that you guys, you know, could just think about it, look at it, and try to find him in prayer and repentance, right? Know your mission, right? Because I know my mission, and my mission is this, right? And I'll even share it with you, right? My mission is to be Yah's, and to get as many to Yah as we can, to physically be his warrior, and to be a warrior for those around me who are too weak and afraid to stick up for themselves. My mission is to be strong enough to face a pack of wolves and beasts of the darkness that I've already seen. And I'm saying this because I have testimony videos. Go check them out. And I'm also trying to be ready for the beasts of the night that I have not seen. Because one day our Father is going to reveal all the darkness. If you read Revelations, you read Enoch, you read a couple books, and it puts things in perspective. So my mission is to be cleansed of all my sin and pollution, and to make sure I don't fall for the traps of the enemy, and for the things that the enemy lays in front of me, right? And my mission is to rely on his word and his promises, and to remember what I promise him, to not let my mind or my eyes or my body become lazy or of sin. You know, my mission is to maintain physical dominance, right? My goal is to train, not to have sexual needs, not to be sexually immoral, not to be, lost in lust. It's like the boxing mentality, the fighting mentality. I have to use training and fasting and his word opposed to like my bad habits, right? Replacing things like fornication with training and looking for, the release and thrill and satisfaction and being prepared for what's to come, opposed to, just things of the flesh, that momentary high. And again, being prepared for what's to come, gathering as much tools and knowledge as I can to be ready to use it for those in need, knowing that I'm his warrior and I'm strong, but I'm also compassionate, right? Like he is. And I'm capable of being the hero that this city needs and the hero that our Father deserves, right? That's my mission, is to remember that at all times, that I could also be the hero that he deserves, right? Enjoying the rush of bringing justice to evil. Because when I'm out on the field and I'm on duty, that feels amazing. That rush of actually making a difference and not doing it for the police, not selling my soul and being a part of their brotherhood, and still finding a way to do it legally and to bring justice to evil. That's an adrenaline rush and high right there. And that's the same thing I get from doing these videos. And my mission is to enjoy the physical and spiritual dominance while keeping my fire, right? And to continuously train the brain, because unlike Adam and Eve, I understand that knowledge is earned. So I have to always train my brain. I have to always study, right? And knowledge is earned on our Father's time, right? At a pace that we can comprehend it. So I have to remember that. I have to remember that it's baby steps. Sometimes I want to blurt too much in these videos, and I have to remember that there's still things I need to learn, that I'm not all knowing. I'm not some crazy prophet. I'm just somebody that he's giving these warnings to, like in the days of Noah, right? I have to remember so that I can share his knowledge and his warnings with others like me, especially in dark places, because I can handle being in dark places. That's what I do for work. I go to the darkest of places and I'm able to try to reach people, right? I must always put the needs of others above my own. That's my mission. And maybe then he'll have mercy and forgiveness upon me and upon us if we try to have this continuous strength and need for knowledge to benefit others, right? It's just like prepping. Obviously, now that you know my line of work, you know that I prep. I've talked about this types of stuff on multiple videos, except for my line of work. So it's just like prepping, right? If I get a bunch of water and there's a water shortage, giving a water bottle to the newborn baby next door is going to make a world of difference, right? So we have to prepare physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, right? And we have to do all things with, through, and for Yah, for I am, right? Otherwise, we will definitely be lost for all of time. So I know that's like a crazy random spiel, but that's my mission, and you guys have to find yours, because he assigns us all a mission. He assigns us all this character type. My wife is more of a healer than me. I'm the warrior, she's the healer. And I appreciate that, because you see, movies of, like Vietnam, where these nurses are going over, putting their life on the line just to help other people, going into the line of fire without any weapon. And that's a beautiful thing to me. And I'm the opposite, right? I'm the warrior. I'm the person that just like breaks the pumpkin and pulls all the stuff out of it, right? That's what I do. That's what I'm programmed for. And it's for him. It's not for evil. It's not going to be for my philosophy, like the Masons say. It's not going to be for my agenda. It's going to be, when the time's right, for the people that need it the most. And I pray that you guys remember that I'm on your side although there's all these agendas and they pull out my opinions, I don't hate anybody. I have friends, acquaintances, I should say, people that I've known, you know, especially being, you know, like in my line of work, that it's like a tough girl who ends up wanting to try to be trans or something. They're so lost, and then they admit that I got points, that I'm right, and I've seen that change in them and their spirit, and them try to, you know, backtrack and become who they were. And it's a beautiful thing to say what's wrong, recognize what's wrong, and to be able to repent and change it. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Our Father knows that we're going to have the power of choice. We may sin, but if we do sin, then what, right? Are we going to do it again? Are we going to continue to be on this lost path? Or are we going to correct it as quickly as we can so we can return to His path? Are we going to say, man, I shouldn't have did that. I know that was a test. I failed, and I'll never do it again. And then as quickly as we can, get back to His path, right? That's what it's all about. So I'm not perfect. I've made a bunch of mistakes. Even in this time, this little short time period where I haven't been doing videos, I've backslid. I've had problems. I've also, you know, talked to my wife about everything, and, you know, like, it's a blessing having somebody to talk to as well and level you out. So we're always here for you. If you need anybody to talk to and level you out, if you don't think anybody sees the same things, we do. And there's others like you. I know we're scattered, but it's like our Father says, right? The enemy's like a pack of wolves, right? And many times in the Bible do you see, like, they say that their name is Legion, that they're many. There's more evil than there is good out there. The wolves travel in a pack. We're individual, and we're scattered. We're few, but we're strong. We're still dominant. Don't forget that. I know it's hard, especially with all this stuff with kids and everything that comes in up, and all these agendas and all the divide, and it gets very overwhelming, and it gets to be very easy to give up and to quit teaching His truth and sticking up for it, doing videos, talking to people. But if we stop, it stops, and the good's truly gone. So to all my fellow warriors out there, it's time to witness up. Make sure that you do correctly. Make sure that you fast and that you try to receive Him in every way. Try to be still and sober, like He says, because these are end times. But more importantly, try to find Him in prayer and repentance. Try to love people around you. It doesn't cost anything. It's free to just be a good person. Hold a door for somebody. Say thank you. I mean, the basics are gone. They're gone. And they shouldn't be. So I love you guys, and I just pray that you look at His signs. And as I'm looking down, I seen 444, right? I pray that you guys see His signs, and that you realize that that is Him talking to you. Again, a lot of people say, well, I asked Him, what should I do? Should I stay with my wife or get with this girl at work? And He didn't say nothing, so I'm going to do what I want to do. It's like, that's not how it works. He doesn't speak American English. He's not just going to talk to you because you want to know if you want a number 5 or a number 7, right? Like, it's not how it works. He's not a genie, and you're not so lucky. There's actually a passage in the Bible where when the 10 Commandments were being presented to Moses, it says that every angel just freaked out. They just trembled, and they were so afraid because they didn't know what He's about to say, because He said He had rules. And it's like, that's the truth. Like, we can't handle Him talking to us. Just look at license plates, look at numbers, look at the signs and symbols, and it's easy to see. I've done enough talking. Now I got to do all this editing. Sorry this video's taken a while to get out. I had to get a new microphone cord, because it's always something, man. When you're trying to do a video of substance, the enemy will always try to get you to not. So I love you. Thank you guys for being patient for my videos. I appreciate everybody who checks in on us and waits for the new content, comments, and shares, and tries to wake people up through the messages and videos we're putting out. That's just that's awesome, and I don't deserve that personally. I've been a bad person. I've sinned, and again, it took me being rock bottom to want to repent, to want to find Him, And the fact that my testimonies and my situations and revelations that my family and I receive can bring people closer to Him, that's just beautiful. And it's something that we don't deserve, because I always look at it like this, right? I always look at the high and mighty Christian, right, who's like, yeah, well, I've been saved for 12 years, and they're 57. It's like, okay, so you've been saved for 12 years, you're 57. If my math is correct, you've been a heathen longer than you've been, quote unquote, saved, right? Somebody's saying, oh, I'm saved, I'm going to get raptured, and it's like, no, you're not. You didn't read the text. That's not how that works. And your bad is still somehow outweighing your good, because you got your nose so high up in there, right? And that's not me. So to the people that conversate with us and say that these videos help or agree and they share it, that means so much to me, because I always feel worthless. I grew up as an orphan. I grew up with some major mental issues. It always pushes me to train harder. It always pushes me to pray harder. It always pushes me to try harder for others. But the heaviness that comes with all of my past issues, along with, you know, my line of work and things that I've done and places I've gone and all this other stuff, it just all stacks up, and it's very easy to feel worthless. And I see that a lot in superhero movies, right? The one that the father values typically gets tested the worst, right? Gets that test of faith. And in every superhero movie, you see the hero like break down and have this moment where it's like, come on, man, you need to remember you're the hero. So I'm sorry for not doing my videos, taking a break. And it's also because I know how worthless I am, and that's the thorn in our heel that our Father promises us, right? To always remember our sin and wrong, and to use that to motivate us to walk on His path correctly and get as many to Him as we can. So again, I'm you guys. I'm the person trying to fight for the truth, trying to fight for the community. I'm somebody that I know I've done wrong, but I know that I want to do right. And I just want to thank you guys again for listening to me, and again checking in on me. It means more than you know, because we have no family. All we have is our fellow brothers and sisters in the truth community. And I pray that if you guys ever need anything, you know that we're right here. I'll do better at communicating with everybody and having a platform or way to communicate. But I love you guys. And to all my fellow truthers out there, it'd be nice to conversate more and potentially meet up. Time's closing in, and it'd be nice to see who's around and what you can use help with. Love you guys. Y'all be with you always. Out.